2015, Representative Lahab Kwok revealed that at least 1 million Uyghurs had been detained in China's Xinjiang vocational education and training centers. They are individuals suspected of involvement in or sympathy with riots and attacks on Chinese government institutions. Since then, the detention of Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in concentration camps in Xinjiang has become a focal point of international attention. This is also assessed as the largest-scale arbitrary detention of ethnic and religious minority groups since World War II. So who are the Uyghurs, and why does China suppress this ethnic group? Origin of the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs, also known as Uyghurs, are a Turkic ethnic group with origins and cultural ties to Central and East Asia. Their ancestors are believed to have been formidable forces on the Central Asian steppes during China's Tang and Song. The history of the Uyghurs is the story of a small nomadic tribe from the Altai Mountains that competed with other rival powers in the region, such as the Han regimes in the south and west, along with Tibetan regimes in the east, to establish the Uyghur Khanate in 1744. At its peak, this Khanate controlled a vast territory of up to 3.1 million square kilometers in 1846. Due to heavy losses from famine and civil war, the Uyghur Khanate was invaded by an alliance of China's Jin dynasty and the Kyrgyz, another Turkic ethnic group. Before the collapse of this Khanate, most of the former tribal groups under Uyghur control migrated to northwestern China, particularly to the Tarim Basin in present-day Xinjiang, which has since become their new homeland to this day, known as the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The Uyghurs began to be Islamized in the 10th century and by the 16th century had become a genuine Muslim community with profound influences on culture and ethnic identity. It is estimated that there are currently about 13.5 million Uyghurs living in various countries, but China's Xinjiang region is where this ethnic group is most densely concentrated, with over 11. Among them, 80% of Xinjiang's Uyghurs still live in the Tarim Basin, while the remainder mostly reside in Urumqi, the capital of this autonomous region. Besides the Uyghur community in Xinjiang, there are over 5,000 Uyghurs living in Hunan Province, China, mainly around Taoyuan County and other areas of Changde City. However, Uyghurs in this area are not very devout and still eat pork. They also do not speak Uyghur, but instead use Chinese and Arabic. As for the overseas Uyghur community, they are mainly concentrated in countries neighboring Xinjiang, such as Kazakhstan with 223,000, Pakistan with 2, Turkey with approximately 100,000 to 300,000, Kazakhstan with 60,000, and Uzbekistan with 48,000. Smaller numbers live in the United States, Australia, Jordan, Russia, Japan, Sweden, etc. Distinctive characteristics of the Uyghur. The land of Xinjiang is primarily vast desert stretches, divided into many sections by the Tian Shan Mountains. Although lacking favorable natural conditions, this area was once an important region traversed by the historical Silk Road. It is also regarded as a vital artery for cultural and technological exchange between China. Thanks to this, the Uyghurs began to develop a unique culture based on a long history and connections between different civilizations. They have made significant contributions to Asian literature, medicine, architecture, music, and fine art. Manuscripts and documents discovered in Xinjiang reveal a highly developed civilization of the Uyghur. Their culture existed in the Central Asian region for over 1,000 years after separating from the Tang dynasty in the 8th century, but declined rapidly after being. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, scientific explorers and archaeologists discovered many cave temples, monastic ruins, murals, as well as statues and relics left by ancient Uyghurs in historical areas of Xinjiang. The artistic works found here are so exquisite that they have amazed many researchers from Europe, America, and Japan. For centuries, the Uyghurs have also been famous for their vibrant music and impressive dances. Among them, Sanam is a popular folk dance of this ethnic. It is often performed at weddings, festivals, or special celebrations. Sanam music typically starts slowly, gradually transitioning to a faster rhythm, and by the end, the dances become more lively and captivating. The language of the Uyghurs is Uyghur. It is completely different from Chinese because it is a branch of the Turkic language family written in Perso-Arabic script. Recently, Uyghur has been strongly influenced by Russian and Mandarin. Most Uyghurs in Xinjiang today are followers of Sunni Islam, and they are also the second largest Muslim ethnic group in China after the Wei of Ningxia. While the Wei resemble the Han in appearance and culture, the Uyghurs are completely the opposite, with very distinct characteristics and are often mistaken for foreign. Most Uyghurs have an attractive appearance with fair skin, delicate faces, large and deep-set eyes, long and thick eyebrows, high and straight noses, and a very Western physique. This is likely the result of centuries of bloodline mixing among Arab, Iranian, Greek, and Persian peoples along the Silk Road over 1000. Thus, the land of Xinjiang has long been famous for producing many beauties and is dubbed the land of stunning beauties, including well-known names today such as Dilarabat Marat, Golnazar, and Medina, etc.
Issues between China and the Uyghurs in Xinjiang.
Conflicts between Uyghur nationalists and the Chinese government have always been a hot topic in the Vilnius Pub. There are many reasons for this conflict, but the root cause stems from disputes over the history of the Uyghurs. The argument of the Uyghurs.
Uyghur historians have long maintained that the Uyghurs have a long history in Xinjiang and are the indigenous inhabitants of this land.
However, since Xinjiang came under Qing rule in the 18th century, later replaced by the Republic of China, and finally became an autonomous region of China in 1955, the Uyghurs have repeatedly faced Since 1949, when Mao Zedong's party took control of Xinjiang, the emigration of Uyghurs abroad has increased significantly. Major waves of migration occurred during the Great Famine of the 1950s and 1960s, followed by Mao Zedong's bloody Cultural Revolution, which led to many intellectuals being purged or executed. Hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of Uyghurs and other Muslim minority groups fled to neighboring Central Asian countries, including Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, while others escaped to Afghanistan and Turkey. Following new political tensions in recent years, thousands of Uyghurs have continued to flee in Europe, while over 1,000 eventually crossed the Atlantic to reach the United States. The Uyghur population in the U.S. has since grown to at least 9,000 by
Uyghurs claim that the
Chinese government discourages their religious practices and has destroyed thousands of mosques, including significant historical structures. According to a 2020 report by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, since 2017, China has destroyed or damaged. There was a time when Uyghur women were prohibited from covering their hair and faces according to their religious belief. Children were also not allowed to learn the Uyghur language and had to study. Additionally, China implemented a policy of assimilating Uyghurs, as the government encouraged or forced a large number of Han Chinese to relocate to Xinjiang for living and working. If in 1949, Uyghurs still accounted for about 76% of Xinjiang's population, while Han Chinese only made up 7%, by 2018, the Han population had increased to 40%. Conversely, the proportion of Uyghurs decreased to 51%, equivalent to about 12%. Moreover, Han Chinese are prioritized in holding administrative positions, commanding the military, and owning commercial establishments, while Uyghurs remain in traditional occupations. Although called an autonomous region, it is clear that Xinjiang is directly and more strictly governed by the central authorities in Beijing compared to other. Therefore, Uyghurs are extremely frustrated and feel they are gradually becoming strangers in their own home. Particularly in 2017, Uyghurs accused China of abusing and detaining millions of their people without any specific legal basis. As of 2020, it is estimated that up to 1.8 million people are held,
primarily Uyghurs but also including Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic ethnic groups.
Additionally, in 2019, reports of forced sterilizations in Xinjiang emerged. Many women from this ethnic group said they were forced by authorities to undergo sterilization through tubal ligation, coerced into taking birth control pills, and, as a result, in 2019, the birth rate in Xinjiang dropped by 24% compared to the previous year. This is a much larger decline than the 4.2%.
Pairing and becoming family.
And they call it China's disguised campaign of collective rape. This is reflected in the government forcing over 1 million Han men to cohabit with Uyghur families while most of their male members are detained in concentration camps. China is also accused of using forced labor of Uyghurs. According to a report published by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, at least 80,000 Uyghurs have been forced to leave Xinjiang for forced labor purposes in at least 27, alongside detaining millions of adults in 2017 alone. At least 500,000 Uyghur children were forcibly separated from their families and placed in kindergartens with prison-like surveillance systems. For Uyghurs living outside China, the government also uses their families to pressure them into returning. Faced with this oppression, on July 6, 2020, the Uyghur government in exile of East Turkestan and the East Turkestan National Awakening Movement filed a complaint with the International Criminal Court, ICC, calling on the body to investigate and prosecute Chinese authorities for genocide and crimes against humanity. However, this appeal was not accepted because the ICC has no authority to Contrary to what Uyghurs say, China claims that the Han Chinese are the true indigenous people of Xinjiang, as they were there before the Uyghurs arrived.
That's official stance is recorded in the book,
asserting that the Uyghurs here were formed by the merging of various indigenous ethnic groups since the 9th century, not descendants of ancient Uyghurs. Furthermore, the national government completely rejects Uyghur accusations of repression and forced labor. China argues that public opinion is exaggerating the issue in Xinjiang, and everything the country is doing aims at social stability and national economic development. Regarding the establishment of concentration camps, China asserts this is a legitimate response to threats of extremism, meaning they have indirectly acknowledged the existence of these camps. Moreover, before these drastic measures, anti-government movements in Xinjiang had caused serious consequences and disrupted the security and order of the autonomy. Uyghurs have repeatedly protested against the Chinese government and demanded secession, allegedly led by hostile and For example, the Baren uprising in 1990 resulted in 6 police officers killed and 13 others injured. Or the Urumqi bus bombing in 1997, which killed 9 people, including at least 3 children and injured 28 others. Then the Guya massacre, demanding independence for Xinjiang in 1997, killed 10 people, while some unofficial reports indicated civilian deaths of the 100 and 198 security personnel casualties. Particularly in July 2009, a serious riot occurred in Urumqi and became headline news in Chinese newspapers at 7 o'clock. With nearly 3,000 participants, the aftermath left 197 dead, mostly Han Chinese, and 1,007. And there have been many other attacks throughout Xinjiang, all allegedly caused by subversive Uyghur elements. That is also why China had to implement strong measures against the separatist movement in the Xinjiang autonomy. Another important reason is that Xinjiang currently holds a strategic position in China's geopolitical. With a land border over 5,600 kilometers long and an area of 1,659,000 square kilometers, it is almost in Type 1, therefore, it is seen as a natural wall separating China from other neighbors.
As Republic of China throughout different periods have highly valued Xinjiang.
3. Xinjiang is also a gateway to Afghanistan, Pakistan, through Central Asia to Iran, the Caspian region, and 4. This strategic position makes it a key area for China's economic growth. 5. Aimed at connecting Eurasian infrastructure under the Belt and Road Initiative. 6. Therefore, the Beijing government has invested heavily in building infrastructure. 7. Besides its role as a trade gateway, Xinjiang is also known as a place where terrorist groups 8. Due to sharing borders with some unstable countries like Afghanistan. 9. And even allied Pakistan is a place that harbors 10. Therefore, the Beijing government always wants to turn Xinjiang into an outpost and military with 11. On the other hand, relations between China and India have significant 12. The peak was clashes between the border forces of the two countries, causing 13. This raises concerns about a war between the two powers. 14. Therefore, the Beijing government wants to turn 15, with the task of preventing any threats from China's left. 16. Additionally, Xinjiang 17, with 76 types of 18, aluminum, oil, natural gas, copper, gold, 19, are the most important minerals. 20. Although discovered oil reserves 21. Estimated reserves are 22, equivalent to about 23, and natural gas reserves 24. Xinjiang's raw coal, 25, accounting for 40%. 26. Currently, Xinjiang, 27, uses raw material. Common industry also accounts for 29 and 20% of 30. These are the reasons China pays 31 and always guards against 32. However, that is not 33, but notably, history 34. So the Uyghurs find it there 35, being imposed on their people 36. This is also a glory. 37. The Uyghurs are alone in 38. Although recent Uyghur up 39 in the 20th century. 40. This people succeeded twice. 41. And building their own state. 42. The first time was in November. 43. With the establishment of 44, also known as the First 45, but it was quickly dissolved. 46. Next, in November. 47. The Uyghurs successfully. 48. And established the second. 49. However, in both instances. 50. This people received support, and they too were nearly paused in a geopolitical. After Nazi Don's army achieved victory,
The government in Moscow
and the international community were drawn into as they were flying from Xinjiang to Beijing. When we correctly identified the situation, we discovered a political line of the two suits. After Nazi Don's army achieved victory, the government in Moscow believed that. But close alliance with China was far more with the complex Uyghur Muslims. And the result of these calculations was that where dozens of top leaders of the Second East Turkestan Republic all perished in a mysterious plane crash on August 27, 1949. As they were flying from Xinjiang to Beijing to negotiate with Mao Zedong. According to official announcement, the plane crashed somewhere between the Russian cities of Omsk and Xi'an. Much intelligence suggests this was a purge carried out by the Soviet Union. This also led to the Chinese Communist Party's entry into Xinjiang and the establishment of the People's Republic of China in December 1940, and the Uyghurs once again lost their country. After that, separatists in Xinjiang almost completely lost their important allies and foreign aid sources.
faced with suppression.
The Muslim community in Xinjiang set out to disrupt the Muslim communities in many other countries that received no response. Even when China established what are considered inhumane re-education camps in Xinjiang, there were very few worldwide protests condemning this behavior. While human rights are highly valued by people everywhere,
especially Muslims.
The reason is likely China's expansion in the 21st century, as the country diligently invests money in many nations worldwide. For example, Pakistan is a nearby Islamic republic, but has long activated a pro-China vote to counter India, while receiving significant technical, military, and economic support from China. While Saudi Arabia is also an Islamic kingdom, it has taken almost no action regarding accusations concerning Uyghur Muslims. It seems because China is actively helping this country develop ballistic and is also one of the largest oil importers, along with the United States and Japan.
Another hope for the Uyghurs is their ethnic kin in Turkey.
But this country is also not in a hurry to help their relatives. While Muslims in Afghanistan, neighbors of Xinjiang, are too poor and busy with their own problems. Moreover, Chinese special agencies have a very strong position in Afghanistan since China provided weapons to the jihadist forces fighting against us, and the result is in the international Islamic movement. Among them, the Uyghur people remain the most marginalized and least. The international community is also divided. One camp supports China's policy, believing there to be necessary measures to prevent terrorist crime. This camp includes some Middle Eastern countries such as Iraq, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, etc., along with post-Soviet countries like Russia, Belarus, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. Southeast Asian countries such as Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and the Philippines, and many African countries like Algeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Angola, Morocco, Sudan, etc. Meanwhile, other organizations and countries strongly condemn, including the United Nations, the United States, Israel, the Czech Republic, and France. Additionally, Qatar initially supported China's policies in Xinjiang, but by August 2019, it became the first Middle Eastern country to withdraw its support.
The current life of Uyghurs in Xinjiang.
Shortly after the 2009 incident, the Chinese government began developing new technologies to tightly control the local population. The goal is to ensure security is maintained while limiting the use of manpower. Therefore, many Uyghurs feel their lives are no different from being under house arrest. And Amnesty International has described their life in Xinjiang as a living hell. In addition to establishing concentration camps, China also uses them
to store data on Uyghurs and other Muslims,
aiming to track their movements through facial recognition. This application is called the Integrated Joint. It is a surveillance system primarily deployed in the Xinjiang region. The system can collect large amounts of data such as bank statements, legal records, and phone history. Police use this system to screen 36 types of individuals considered by the authorities to exhibit bad. This group includes returnees from abroad, newly released prisoners, those avoiding contact with neighbors, participants in Islamic religious activities, those who stop using smartphones, and others. Furthermore, camera systems are installed throughout cities and around residential areas to monitor people's movements. For example, when entering or leaving residential buildings, people are forced only when the information matches the system or the. If anyone is suspected of illegally entering public facilities such as banks, hospitals, shopping centers, schools, and parks, the system immediately alerts the police. This system is also used to monitor security conditions. Currently, the ethnic discord situation in Xinjiang remains. Uyghurs feel disadvantaged economically and politically compared to Han China. Although the Chinese government has introduced many new policies it remains a difficult problem without a solution. These are the issues faced by the Uyghur people in Xinjiang. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.